Black young man helps white elderly lady cross the street. What she gives him in return is astonishing. Follow us in this eventful journey of Jamal Edwards. The city awakens with a roar. Streams of people flood the sidewalks, their footsteps creating a chaotic rhythm against the concrete. Cars honk impatiently, stuck in gridlock. The air thrums with urgency. Another weekday morning in full swing. Jamal Edwards steps out of his apartment building, squinting against the harsh sunlight. He smooths down his crisp white shirt, adjusting the knot of his navy blue tie. The fabric feels strange against his skin, a far cry from his usual t-shirts and hoodies. But today isn't usual. Today could change everything. He glances back through the open doorway. His mother, Angela, rushes around their small kitchen, gulping down coffee between bites of toast. Her nurse's scrubs are wrinkled from too many washes. "You got this, baby," she calls out, flashing a tired smile. "Show 'em what you're made of." Jamal nods, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Thanks, Ma. Don't work too hard today, all right?" Angela waves him off with a chuckle. "You know me. Now get going before you're late." The door clicks shut behind him, and Jamal takes a deep breath. The weight of expectation settles on his shoulders like a physical thing. He starts walking, his polished shoes tapping out a steady beat. The neighborhood unfolds around him, a patchwork of old and new. Weathered brownstones stand shoulder to shoulder with sleek modern apartments. A bodega owner sweeps his storefront, nodding at Jamal as he passes. Across the street, a group of kids in pristine uniforms wait for the school bus, their chatter rising above the traffic noise. Jamal's eyes linger on a boarded-up building, its windows dark and empty. A faded, "For lease," sign hangs crookedly in the doorway. He remembers when it was Mr. Johnson's barber shop, a neighborhood fixture for decades. Now it's just another casualty of rising rents and changing times. A memory surfaces, sitting in Mr. Johnson's chair, feet dangling, as the old man trimmed his hair and dispensed life advice. "Education is your ticket, young man," he'd say, his scissors snipping in time with his words. "Get that degree, and doors will open." Jamal had taken those words to heart, working his way through community college despite the odds. And now, armed with his associate's degree, he's heading to an interview that could be his big break. A junior analyst position at a respected financial firm. The kind of job that could lift him and his mom out of their constant struggle to make ends meet. His stomach twists with a mix of hope and anxiety. He's qualified, he knows that, but he's also acutely aware of how he might be perceived. A young black man from this neighborhood, up against candidates from more privileged backgrounds. It's not fair, but it's reality. Jamal shakes off the doubts. He can't afford to let them take root, not today. He quickens his pace, weaving through the crowd with determination. As he approaches a busy intersection, something catches his eye. An elderly woman stands at the curb, her thin frame tense with apprehension. She grips a polished wooden cane, knuckles white against the dark wood. Her eyes dart between the surging traffic and the crosswalk signal, which blinks its unforgiving countdown. Jamal hesitates. He glances at his watch, then back at the woman. The smart move would be to keep going. He can't afford to be late, not today. But there's something in the woman's posture that tugs at him, a vulnerability that cuts through his own preoccupations. Before he can second-guess himself, Jamal changes course. "Excuse me, ma'am," he says, approaching with a gentle smile. "Would you like some help crossing?" The woman turns, startled. Her eyes, a faded blue, widen as she takes him in. There's a flicker of something, hesitation, suspicion, before her expression softens. "Oh," she says, her voice quavering slightly. "That's very kind of you, young man, but I wouldn't want to trouble you." Jamal shakes his head. "It's no trouble at all. I'd be happy to assist." He notices details now, the pearls at her throat, the well-tailored coat that speaks of better days. This is a woman used to independence, struggling to accept its gradual erosion. "Well," she says after a moment, "if you're sure it's no bother." "Not at all, ma'am. I'm Jamal, by the way." "Eleanor Whitmore," she replies, inclining her head slightly. "A pleasure to meet you, Jamal." Jamal offers his arm, and after a brief hesitation, Mrs. Whitmore takes it. Her grip is surprisingly firm. "Ready when you are," he says. They step off the curb together as the walk signal flashes. Jamal matches his pace to Mrs. Whitmore's careful steps, hyper-aware of the traffic around them. A taxi blares its horn, inching forward impatiently. Jamal shifts, placing himself between Mrs. Whitmore and the vehicle. "Dreadful manners," Mrs. Whitmore mutters, shaking her head. "In my day, drivers showed a bit more courtesy." Jamal chuckles. "Some things never change, I guess. My grandma used to say the same thing." Jamal's arm steadies Mrs. Whitmore as they reach the opposite curb. The cacophony of the city envelopes them, car horns blaring, the steady hum of conversation, the rhythmic tapping of hurried footsteps on concrete. But for a moment, it all fades into the background. Mrs. Whitmore's hand lingers on Jamal's arm, her grip firmer than he expected. She looks up at him, her faded blue eyes searching his face. There's a flicker of something in her expression, gratitude, certainly, but also a hint of surprise, as if she's seeing something she didn't expect. Thank you, young man," she says, her voice wavering slightly. "That was very kind of you." Jamal nods, offering a small smile. "Happy to help, ma'am." He expects her to let go, to continue on her way, but she doesn't. Instead, her grip tightens almost imperceptibly, as if she's reluctant to break this unexpected connection. "It's not often one finds such courtesy these days," Mrs. Whitmore continues, her tone wistful. "Especially in this city. Everyone's always in such a rush." Jamal glances at his watch, acutely aware of his own ticking clock. But something in the old woman's demeanor keeps him rooted to the spot. There's a loneliness there, barely concealed beneath her polished exterior. "Well," he says, choosing his words carefully, "sometimes we all need a little help, right? My mom always says what goes around comes around." Mrs. Whitmore's eyes light up at this. "Your mother sounds like a wise woman. You were raised well." A pang of guilt hits Jamal. Here he is, worrying about being late, while this elderly woman is clearly starved for simple human interaction. He takes a breath, pushing aside his anxiety about the interview for a moment. "She did her best," he says, allowing a note of pride to creep into his voice. "Single mom, working as a nurse. Taught me the value of hard work and looking out for others." Mrs. Whitmore nods approvingly. "Admirable. And what about you? Where are you off to in such a hurry this morning?" "Job interview," Jamal replies, unable to keep a hint of nervousness from his voice. "Junior analyst position at Grayson Financial." "Is that so?" Mrs. Whitmore's eyebrows rise slightly. "Quite an opportunity." There's something in her tone, not quite approval, not quite skepticism, that makes Jamal want to explain further. "Yeah, well, we'll see," he says, shrugging. "Just got my associates in business administration. Figured it was time to put it to use, you know?" Mrs. Whitmore studies him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, seemingly coming to a decision, she begins rummaging in her handbag. "Now, let me just—" "Oh, no, that's not necessary," Jamal says quickly, realizing she might be looking for money. The last thing he wants is to be paid for a simple act of kindness. Mrs. Whitmore looks up, a hint of amusement in her expression. "I wasn't going to offer you money, young man, although your refusal speaks well of you." She pulls out a small, elegant business card and holds it out to him. "Here, if you ever need anything, advice, a reference, whatever it might be, please don't hesitate to call." Jamal takes the card, a little dazed. The paper is thick, expensive. Embossed letters spell out Eleanor Whitmore, along with a phone number. Thank you," he manages, surprised by the gesture. "That's incredibly kind of you." Mrs. Whitmore waves off his thanks. "Kindness should be rewarded with kindness. Now, you'd best be on your way. Wouldn't want you to be late on my account." Jamal nods, suddenly remembering the ticking clock. "Right. Thank you again, Mrs. Whitmore. Take care." He sets off at a brisk pace, slipping the card into his pocket. The encounter has left him feeling strangely buoyant, as if he's passed some sort of test he didn't know he was taking. As Jamal's tall figure disappears into the crowd, Mrs. Whitmore remains rooted to the spot, her eyes following him until he's out of sight. A wistful smile plays on her lips, tinged with a hint of sadness. The city bustles around her, a stark contrast to the stillness she feels within. How long has it been since she's had a genuine interaction like this? The young man's kindness, his willingness to help a stranger. It stirs something in her, a memory of a time when the world felt less cold, less impersonal. She thinks of her own children, scattered across the country, too busy with their own lives to visit more than once or twice a year. Of her late husband, whose absence still aches like a phantom limb. Of the business she built and then let go, believing her time for purpose and meaning had passed. But that young man, Jamal, his energy, his potential, it reminds her of herself at that age, hungry for opportunity, eager to prove herself. And yet, there was something more there. A kindness, a depth that she doesn't often see anymore. Mrs. Whitmore sighs, finally turning to continue her walk. The city feels different somehow, less intimidating. She finds herself hoping that Jamal's interview goes well, that the world will be kind to him. And she wonders, not for the first time, if perhaps she's not quite finished with the world of business after all. Meanwhile, Jamal power walks through the crowded streets, his mind racing. The weight of Mrs. Whitmore's business card seems to burn in his pocket, a tangible reminder of the unexpected encounter. But as he approaches the towering glass and steel structure that houses Grayson Financial, his focus shifts. The building looms over him, its reflective surface throwing back a distorted image of the bustling city. Jamal takes a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. This is it. The opportunity he's been working towards, the chance to start building a better life for himself and his mom. He pushes through the revolving doors, entering a lobby that seems to swallow sound. The click of expensive shoes on marble echoes around him. Men and women in tailored suits hurry past, their faces set in expressions of determined purpose. For a moment, doubt creeps in. Jamal feels acutely out of place, hyper-aware of his second-hand suit and the neighborhood he left behind this morning. But he pushes the feeling aside. He's earned his place here, same as anyone else. He approaches the reception desk, where a polished young woman greets him with a practiced smile. "Good morning," Jamal says, keeping his voice steady. "I'm here for an interview with Mr. Grayson." Jamal Edwards. The receptionist taps at her computer, then nods. "Of course, Mr. Edwards. Please take the elevator to the 14th floor. Someone will meet you there." Jamal thanks her and heads for the bank of elevators. As he waits, he catches his reflection in the polished doors. The face that looks back at him is composed, professional, ready. The elevator arrives with a soft chime. Jamal steps inside, his heart racing despite his calm exterior. As the doors slide shut, he feels the weight of the business card in his pocket. A reminder that kindness can appear in unexpected places, even on the most important days. The elevator ascends swiftly, and before Jamal knows it, he's stepping out onto the 14th floor. The atmosphere here is different, charged with an energy that's part excitement, part tension. He's not the only one here for an interview, he realizes. Several other young people, all impeccably dressed, sit in a waiting area, their postures rigid with nerves. A receptionist directs Jamal to take a seat. He does, trying not to fidget as he waits. The minutes tick by slowly. He observes his competition. Most seem to come from more privileged backgrounds, their suits clearly designer, their confidence bordering on arrogance. Jamal takes a deep breath, reminding himself that he belongs here just as much as they do. Finally, a door opens, and a middle-aged man steps out. "Jamal Edwards?" he calls, glancing around the room. Jamal stands, straightening his tie. "That's me, sir." The man, the interviewer, Jamal assumes, gives him a cursory once-over. There's something in his expression, a flicker of, what? Surprise? Disappointment? It's gone before Jamal can be sure. "This way," the man says, turning on his heel without waiting for a response. Jamal follows him into a stark, minimalist office. The walls are bare except for a few framed certificates and a large, imposing painting of a bull. The symbol of a bullish market, Jamal realizes. It's meant to be impressive, he supposes, but it just feels cold. "Have a seat," the interviewer says, gesturing to a chair in front of the desk. He doesn't introduce himself as he settles into his own seat. immediately picking up a file, Jamal's resume, presumably. So, the man says, his eyes skimming the paper, Jamal Edwards. Associate's degree from Community College of Philadelphia. There's a note in his voice that makes Jamal's spine stiffen. He opens his mouth to speak, to explain his circumstances, his work ethic. But the interviewer continues as if he hasn't noticed. Tell me, Mr. Edwards, why do you think you're qualified for this position? The question hangs in the air, its implications clear. Jamal takes a breath, pushing down the surge of indignation. He's prepared for this. He knows his worth. Well, sir, he begins, while my degree may not be from an Ivy League school, I've worked hard to excel in my studies while also gaining real-world experience. I've held various part-time jobs throughout college, which have taught me valuable skills in time management, customer service, and adaptability. I'm a quick learner, dedicated, and I bring a unique perspective that I believe could be an asset to your team. The words come out smoothly, rehearsed but sincere. But as Jamal speaks, he can see the interviewer's eyes glazing over. The man's attention is already drifting back to the resume, his pen tapping an impatient rhythm on the desk. The interviewer murmurs, clearly unimpressed. And what do you know about Grayson Financial? Jamal launches into his prepared response, detailing the company's history, its recent acquisitions, its position in the market. But with each word, he can feel the opportunity slipping away. The interviewer's body language, his clipped responses, the way he barely makes eye contact, it all screams disinterest. The rest of the interview passes in a blur. The questions are perfunctory, the responses barely acknowledged. Jamal tries to inject enthusiasm into his answers, to showcase his knowledge and passion, but it's like speaking to a brick wall. Before he knows it, the interviewer is standing, extending a hand in a clear dismissal. Thank you for your time, Mr. Edwards. We'll be in touch if we decide to move forward. The if hangs heavy in the air. Jamal knows, with a sinking feeling, that he won't be hearing from them again. He shakes the man's hand, murmuring his own thanks, and walks out of the office. The other candidates in the waiting room barely spare him a glance, too wrapped up in their own nervous anticipation. As the elevator doors close behind him, Jamal lets out a long, shaky breath. The disappointment is a physical ache in his chest. He'd known it was a long shot, but he'd allowed himself to hope, to dream of what this job could mean for him, for his mom, for their future. The lobby seems even more imposing now, the click of expensive shoes on marble a mocking reminder of a world that seems determined to keep him out. Jamal walks out into the bright sunlight, blinking against its glare. He starts the long walk home, his mind replaying every moment of the interview. What could he have said differently? What did he do wrong? The questions circle endlessly, each one a fresh stab of self-doubt. Jamal trudges down the bustling sidewalk, his shoulders slumped and his gaze fixed on the cracked concrete beneath his feet. The cacophony of car horns and chattering pedestrians fades into the background as he replays the disastrous interview in his mind. A delivery guy on a bike whizzes past, nearly clipping Jamal's elbow. He jerks back, his heart racing, and takes a deep breath. "Come on, man," he mutters to himself. "You can't give up. Mom's counting on you." The thought of his mother, Angela, working another double shift at the hospital, sends a pang through his chest. She'd been so proud when he told her about the interview, her tired eyes lighting up with hope. What would he tell her now? Jamal shoves his hands into his pockets, his fingers brushing against something smooth and rigid. Confused, he pulls out a small, elegant business card. Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, it reads in flowing script, followed by a phone number. He stops walking, staring at the card as the memory of the morning's encounter floods back. The frail old woman, her trembling hands gripping her cane as she peered anxiously at the busy street. The warmth of her gratitude when he'd helped her cross safely. "If you ever need anything, young man," she'd said, pressing the card into his hand, "don't hesitate to call." Jamal's thumb traces the embossed lettering as he considers his options. What could Mrs. Whitmore possibly do for him? She was just a kind old lady he'd helped on a whim. And yet, what did he have to lose? He glances at his watch, grimacing at the time. His mom won't be home for hours, and the thought of sitting alone in their empty apartment, dwelling on his failure, makes his stomach churn. Before he can talk himself out of it, Jamal pulls out his phone and dials the number on the card. It rings once, twice, 3 times. He's about to hang up when a warm, slightly quavering voice answers. Hello? Mrs. Whitmore? This is Jamal. Jamal Edwards? I helped you cross the street this morning? There's a brief pause, and Jamal's heart sinks. She's probably forgotten all about him. But then her voice comes back, filled with genuine pleasure. Jamal. Of course, I remember you. I'm so glad you called. How did your interview go, dear? Jamal swallows hard, caught off guard by her interest. It didn't go well, he admits. I don't think they'll be calling me back. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Mrs. Whitmore says, her voice softening with sympathy. You know, I was hoping we might have a chance to talk more. Would you like to come over? I have something I'd like to discuss with you. Jamal blinks, surprised by the invitation. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. Nonsense, Mrs. Whitmore says firmly. I wouldn't have given you my card if I didn't mean it. Do you have a pen? I'll give you my address. 20 minutes later, Jamal stands before an imposing brownstone in one of the city's more affluent neighborhoods. The house is grand, with ornate stonework and tall windows, but there's a slight air of neglect about it. The small front garden is overgrown, and a shutter on one of the upper windows hangs crookedly. Jamal hesitates, suddenly feeling out of place in his slightly wrinkled interview suit. He's about to turn around when the front door swings open, revealing Mrs. Whitmore. She's dressed more casually now, in a soft cardigan and slacks, but her white hair is still perfectly coiffed. Her face lights up when she sees him. Jamal.
Come in, come in.
I'm so glad you could make it. Jamal follows her into a spacious foyer, his eyes widening at the crystal chandelier overhead and the plush carpets beneath his feet. Mrs. Whitmore leads him through to a cozy living room, gesturing for him to take a seat on a floral-patterned sofa. Would you like some tea? She asks, already moving towards a silver tea service on a side table. Yes, please, Jamal says, his mouth suddenly dry. Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. Oh, call me Eleanor, dear, she says, pouring tea into delicate china cups. Mrs. Whitmore makes me feel so old. Jamal accepts the cup she offers him, careful not to let his nervousness show in his grip. Thank you, Eleanor. Eleanor settles into an armchair across from him, her keen eyes studying his face. Now then, she says, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself, Jamal? About your life, your family, your dreams? Jamal takes a sip of tea, buying himself a moment to gather his thoughts. Then, hesitantly at first, but with growing confidence, he begins to talk. He tells her about growing up in a tough neighborhood, about losing his father when he was 12, and watching his mother work herself to the bone to keep them afloat. He talks about his determination to make something of himself, to build a better life for his mom, and to make a difference in his community. I want to prove that it's possible, you know? Jamal says, his voice thick with emotion, that someone like me can make it, can do something good in the world. But it feels like every door is closed before I even get a chance to knock. Eleanor listens intently, her expression softening as Jamal speaks. When he finishes, she sets her teacup down with a gentle clink. Thank you for sharing that with me, Jamal, she says quietly. I can see how much you've overcome, and how hard you're willing to work for your dreams. It reminds me of myself, many years ago. Jamal looks at her curiously, and Eleanor's eyes take on a faraway look. I wasn't always the old lady you see before you, she says with a wry smile. Once upon a time, I was a young woman with big dreams and a chip on my shoulder. I built a successful business from the ground up, fighting tooth and nail for every opportunity. She pauses, a shadow passing over her face. But after my husband passed away, I found I didn't have the heart for it anymore. I sold most of the business and retired. These past few years, I've been adrift, I suppose you could say. Jamal leans forward, captivated by her story. What kind of business was it? Import and export, primarily, Eleanor says. We specialized in ethically sourced textiles and handicrafts from artisans around the world. It was challenging work, but deeply rewarding. She fixes Jamal with a penetrating gaze. Which brings me to why I asked you here today. Jamal, I've been looking for someone trustworthy and hardworking to help me revive a small part of my old business. When you helped me this morning, something just clicked. I had a feeling about you, and our conversation today has only confirmed it. Jamal's heart begins to race. What are you saying, Mrs. Whittam, Eleanor? Eleanor leans forward, her eyes bright with purpose. I'm offering you a job, Jamal, as my personal assistant, to start with. But if things go well, I see no reason why you couldn't become a full partner in the business. Jamal's mouth drops open. He stares at Eleanor, certain he must have misheard. What? But you barely know me. Why would you? Because I'm a good judge of character, Eleanor says firmly. And because I believe in rewarding kindness and hard work. You didn't have to help me this morning, but you did. You put aside your own pressing concerns to assist a stranger. That speaks volumes about your character, Jamal. She holds up a hand as Jamal begins to protest. This isn't charity, mind you. I expect you to work hard and learn quickly. The business world can be cutthroat, and you'll need to be sharp to succeed. But I think you have what it takes, and I'm willing to bet on you. Jamal's mind whirls, trying to process this unexpected turn of events. I don't know what to say, he manages finally. Eleanor's expression softens. You don't have to decide right now. Take some time to think it over, discuss it with your mother. But know that this offer comes from a place of genuine belief in your potential, Jamal. I think we could do great things together. Jamal nods slowly, a spark of hope igniting in his chest. Thank you, Eleanor. It's more than I ever could have imagined. I promise I'll give it serious thought. That's all I ask, Eleanor says with a warm smile. She glances at the ornate clock on the mantelpiece. Oh my, look at the time. Your mother will be wondering where you are. As if on cue, Jamal's phone buzzes with a text from his mom, asking how the interview went. He looks up at Eleanor, a lump forming in his throat. Go on, she says gently. Go home and talk to your mother. You know where to find me when you've made your decision. Jamal stands, shaking Eleanor's hand with both of his. Thank you, he says again, infusing the words with all the gratitude he can muster. For everything. As he walks home, his steps are lighter, his head held high. The city around him seems different somehow, full of possibility where before there had only been obstacles. For the first time in a long while, Jamal allows himself to hope, to dream of a future limited only by his own determination and hard work. He thinks of his mother, imagining the look on her face when he tells her about Eleanor's offer. He thinks of the people in his community he might be able to help if he succeeds. And he thinks of the kind old woman who saw something in him that others had overlooked, who was willing to take a chance on a stranger. Jamal's hand closes around the business card in his pocket, and he smiles. Whatever happens next, he knows his life has changed irrevocably, all because he'd chosen kindness on a busy morning, never imagining where that simple act would lead. As he rounds the corner to his street, Jamal makes a silent promise to himself and to Eleanor. He will work harder than he's ever worked before. He will learn everything he can, seize every opportunity, and someday, when he's in a position to do so, he'll pay forward the kindness and faith that Eleanor has shown him today. With renewed purpose, Jamal climbs the stairs to his apartment, ready to share his incredible news with his mother and to take the first step towards a future brighter than he'd ever dared to dream. When he reaches his apartment, he finds his mother already home, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from a long shift. Jamal, she calls as he enters. How did the interview go? Jamal takes a deep breath, then tells her everything. The disastrous interview, helping Mrs. Whitmore, and the incredible offer she made. His mother listens with wide eyes, her expression shifting from concern to disbelief to cautious hope. It sounds too good to be true, she says when he finishes. Are you sure about this woman, Jamal? Jamal nods. I am, Mom. I know it's crazy, but I trust her. And this could be the opportunity we've been praying for. His mother studies him for a long moment, then pulls him into a tight hug. Then you go for it, baby. You show that Mrs. Whitmore she made the right choice. The next morning, Jamal calls Mrs. Whitmore and accepts her offer. She sounds pleased but not surprised, as if she knew all along what his decision would be. Excellent, she says. Can you start tomorrow? And just like that, Jamal's new life begins. He arrives at Mrs. Whitmore's house early the next day, dressed in his best clothes and ready to work. Mrs. Whitmore greets him with a warm smile and a stack of files. "Welcome to your first day, Jamal," she says. "Let's get started." The next few weeks pass in a blur of activity. Jamal learns more than he ever thought possible about international trade, textile production, and ethical business practices. Mrs. Whitmore is a demanding teacher, expecting nothing less than his best, but she's also patient and encouraging. They start small, reaching out to some of Mrs. Whitmore's old contacts. Many are surprised to hear from her after so long, but most are excited about the prospect of working together again. Jamal takes careful notes during every call, soaking up Mrs. Whitmore's practiced diplomacy and shrewd negotiation skills. The key, Mrs. Whitmore tells him one afternoon, is to remember that business is about relationships. Yes, we're here to make money, but we're also here to make connections, to uplift communities, to create something meaningful. Jamal nods, scribbling her words in his notebook. He's filled 3 of them already, determined not to miss a single piece of wisdom she shares. As the days turn into weeks, Jamal finds himself taking on more responsibilities. He starts handling some of the correspondence on his own, drafting emails for Mrs. Whitmore's approval. He researches new potential partners, presenting his findings to her with growing confidence. There are challenges, of course. Some of Mrs. Whitmore's old contacts have moved on or gone out of business. The industry has changed in the years since she stepped away, with new regulations and technologies to navigate. But Jamal throws himself into each new problem with determination, often working late into the night to find solutions. Mrs. Whitmore notices his dedication. "You're doing well, Jamal," she tells him one evening as they review the day's work. "Better than I expected, if I'm being honest." Jamal feels a surge of pride at her words. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm trying my best." She nods, a thoughtful expression on her face. "I know you are, and I think it's time we expanded your role a bit. How would you feel about taking the lead on our new artisan outreach program?" Jamal's eyes widen. "Really? Are you sure I'm ready for that?" Mrs. Whitmore smiles. "I wouldn't offer if I didn't think you were. It's time you started putting your own stamp on things, Jamal. This business won't be mine forever, you know?" The implications of her words hit Jamal like a wave. He knew, in theory, that Mrs. Whitmore saw him as a potential successor, but hearing her say it so plainly makes it real in a way it hasn't been before. "I won't let you down," he says, his voice thick with emotion. Mrs. Whitmore reaches out and pats his hand. "I know you won't, my boy. I know you won't." As the weeks turn into months, Jamal and Mrs. Whitmore fall into a comfortable rhythm. They work well together, her experience complementing his youthful energy and fresh ideas. Jamal finds himself looking forward to their daily meetings, not just for the business discussions, but for the personal conversations that often follow. Mrs. Whitmore tells him stories of her early days in business, of the challenges she faced as a woman in a male-dominated industry. Jamal shares his own experiences, the frustrations of being overlooked and underestimated because of his race and background. "You know," Mrs. Whitmore says one afternoon as they share a pot of tea, "when I first started out, people told me I couldn't succeed, that a woman had no place running a business like this." Jamal nods, understanding all too well. "What did you do?" Mrs. Whitmore's eyes twinkle. "I proved them wrong, of course. And that's exactly what you're going to do, Jamal. You're going to show everyone who ever doubted you just how wrong they were." Jamal feels a lump form in his throat. He's never had anyone believe in him the way Mrs. Whitmore does, outside of his mother. It's both exhilarating and terrifying. "Thank you," he says softly, "for everything." Mrs. Whitmore waves her hand dismissively, but Jamal can see the emotion in her eyes. "Don't thank me, Jamal. Just keep working hard. Keep proving me right." And Jamal does. He throws himself into his work with renewed vigor, determined to live up to Mrs. Whitmore's faith in him. He stays late, poring over contracts and market reports. He spends his weekends researching new sustainable practices they might implement. His mother notices the change in him. "You're different," she says one evening as they eat dinner together. "Happier. More. I don't know. Confident." Jamal smiles. "I feel different, Mom. Like I'm finally doing what I'm meant to do. As the business begins to grow again, Jamal finds himself taking on more and more responsibility. Mrs. Whitmore starts introducing him to clients as her partner, not just her assistant. She trusts him to handle negotiations, to make decisions about new product lines. And through it all, their bond deepens. Mrs. Whitmore becomes more than just a boss or even a mentor. She becomes family, filling a void in Jamal's life he didn't even know existed. One evening, as they wrap up a particularly successful day, Mrs. Whitmore turns to Jamal with a serious expression. "You know, Jamal," she says, "when I decided to revive this business, I wasn't sure if I was making the right choice. I wondered if I was just an old woman clinging to past glories." Jamal starts to protest, but she holds up a hand to stop him. "But watching you these past months, seeing your passion and your drive, it's reminded me why I loved this work in the first place. You've brought new life to this business, Jamal. And to me." Jamal feels tears prick at his eyes. "Mrs. Whitmore, I dash." She smiles, her own eyes suspiciously bright. "I know, my boy. I know. Now, what do you say we call it a night and start fresh tomorrow? We've got a big day ahead of us." As Jamal leaves the house that night, he pauses on the front steps, looking back at the grand old building. He thinks about the journey that brought him here, about the random act of kindness that changed his life. With a smile on his face and determination in his heart, Jamal steps off the porch and into the night, ready to face whatever tomorrow brings. The next few months fly by in a whirlwind of activity. Jamal finds himself taking on more and more responsibility within the company. He leads projects, makes crucial decisions, and becomes the face of their community outreach efforts. One crisp autumn morning, he stands before a group of high school students, his hands steady as he adjusts the microphone. "I know what it's like to feel like the odds are stacked against you," he begins, his voice carrying across the auditorium. "I've been where you are, but I'm here to tell you that with hard work, determination, and a little help, you can achieve your dreams." He tells them about the internship program they're launching, about the scholarships they're offering. As he speaks, he sees hope kindling in their eyes, the same hope he once dared to feel. After the presentation, a young girl approaches him, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. "Mr. Edwards," she says softly, "do you really think someone like me could work for a company like yours someday?" Jamal kneels down to meet her eyes. "What's your name?" "Tasha," she replies. "Well, Tasha, I don't just think you could. I know you can. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you and every other kid in this neighborhood gets that chance." As he walks out of the school, his phone buzzes with a text from Mrs. Whitmore. "Proud of you." It reads simply. Jamal smiles, feeling a lump form in his throat. Back at the office, he finds Mrs. Whitmore waiting for him, a stack of papers on her desk. "Jamal," she says, her voice serious, "I think it's time we made our partnership official." His eyes widen. "Mrs. Whitmore, She holds up a hand, silencing him. "You've more than proven yourself, my dear. This company wouldn't be where it is today without you. It's time you had the title to match your contributions." With trembling hands, Jamal signs the papers. As Mrs. Whitmore's pen scratches across the last line, he feels a weight lift from his shoulders. He's no longer just an assistant or even a protege. He's a partner, an equal. "Thank you," he manages to say, his voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Mrs. Whitmore reaches across the desk and squeezes his hand. "No, Jamal. Thank you. You've brought new life to this old business and to me as well." In the months that follow, the business continues to thrive under their joint leadership. Jamal's community initiatives pay off, not just in goodwill but in tangible results. They hire talented local workers who bring fresh perspectives and energy to the company. Their support of community events raises their profile and attracts new clients who appreciate their commitment to social responsibility. A few weeks later, Jamal stands before the board of directors, presenting his latest idea. "I propose we establish a scholarship fund," he says, his voice confident, "in Mrs. Whitmore's name, to help young people from underprivileged backgrounds pursue their dreams." He glances at Mrs. Whitmore, seeing tears glistening in her eyes. The board members nod approvingly, and Jamal feels a surge of pride. This is why he does what he does, not just for himself, but for others who need a helping hand. After the meeting, Mrs. Whitmore pulls him aside. A scholarship fund? In my name? She asks, her voice wavering slightly. Jamal nods. It's the least I can do to honor everything you've done for me. And it's a way to ensure your legacy lives on, helping others the way you helped me. Mrs. Whitmore embraces him, a gesture so unexpected that Jamal is momentarily stunned. You're a good man, Jamal Edwards, she says softly. Don't ever forget that. As the weeks pass, Jamal finds himself busier than ever. Between managing the growing business, overseeing the scholarship fund, and continuing their community outreach efforts, he barely has a moment to breathe. But he wouldn't have it any other way. One morning, as he's hurrying to a meeting, he spots an elderly woman struggling to cross the busy street. Without hesitation, he changes course. "Excuse me, ma'am," he says gently. "Would you like some help crossing?" The woman looks up at him, relief flooding her features. "Oh, yes, thank you, young man. These cars move so fast these days." As Jamal carefully guides her across the street, he can't help but think of that day with Mrs. Whitmore. How a simple act of kindness changed the course of his life. "There you go," he says as they reach the other side. "Safe and sound." The woman pats his arm gratefully. "Bless you, dear. It's nice to know there are still good people in this world." Jamal smiles. "Just paying it forward," he says softly. As he turns to go, he spots Mrs. Whitmore watching from her car, a proud smile on her face. She gives him a small wave, and he returns it, feeling a sense of completion. That evening, as Jamal sits in his new office, larger now, with a view of the city, he reflects on how far he's come. From a struggling young man to a successful businessman and community leader. He thinks of his mother, now able to work fewer hours thanks to his success. Of the young people whose lives are being changed by their scholarship fund. Of Mrs. Whitmore, who took a chance on him and became not just a mentor, but a friend. As the sun sets over the city, casting a golden glow through his office window, Jamal makes a silent promise. To always remember where he came from, to never stop reaching out a helping hand, and to honor the trust Mrs. Whitmore placed in him by paying it forward every chance he gets. With renewed determination, he turns back to his work. There's still so much to do, so many lives to touch. And Jamal Edwards is just getting started.